The money mindset.
There's a
Look at what he's done.
in the season. What a season for
Mamak Patel, Saurabh Netra,
Walker's got
better and better.
the season's gone.
Anu Manish is here with us.
Shakes his thumb.
So, this is a very exciting conversation for me because I have known you from your DSP days and you have so much experience in this market, but you rarely speak to media. Why is that?
No, it's just a business in which, frankly, it's okay to keep a low profile, do your thing. I think at the end of the day, our main constituents are our unit holders who trust us with their money as a fiduciary. And we'd rather spend as many minutes, to be honest, on doing what we're supposed to do. So obviously the media is very helpful from time to time, but we've been as balanced as we can in terms of appearance. And we also come only when we'd like to share something, not too often.
So your journey has been interesting. You spent a lot of time at DSP, you managed a lot of money, and then I think 7-8 years back you moved to 360 ONE. Now you're managing a lot of HNI, Ultra HNI, institutional money. How has that journey been for you so far?
It's been fantastic. I think I've been very fortunate, first of all, to enter the industry and start my career at a time when it really inflected. I mean, there was hardly an asset management industry when I started in 95. It's actually 30 years. And sometimes it's a bit of the luck of the draw. If you're in the right industry and as it scales up, you participate along with it. I've been very fortunate with the companies I've been involved with. So DSP Maryland from 1997, DSP Concord, fantastic place to work, great partners, value system. And spending a lot of time in a place is actually very value creative in our industry because you can create a long-term track record. And a lot of we get money largely because of our track record. So that was really nice. And then coming here about 7-8 years ago into 360 ONE EMC was for me a bit of an entrepreneurial journey starting all over again. I figured I really like building businesses from a low base, so we did that in DSP, we did that in 360 ONE. It has a different fun and charm to build up a team, build up processes, systems, and then create a track record. So this has been a fantastic 7 years. Again, markets have been very fun for us. Our business is growing. And it's fascinating what we're doing here is very, very different from what I was doing in DSP in the sense that we do a lot of stuff on the private side. So we have private equity, private credit, besides listed equities. And that gives you a much better understanding of the entire ecosystem. One of the best parts of my job is meeting a lot of these upcoming entrepreneurs on the venture side and just seeing the vibrancy in India in terms of entrepreneurship coming up, which you don't get to see as much. You do see it on the listed side, but when you see startups, it's a different type of energy. So it's been fantastic, and I often say, being a fund manager is probably one of the best jobs in the world because you get to meet the best brains in the country, and CEOs and whatnot. You get to question them, you get to learn from them, and you get paid for it. So it's like a permanent MBA program. For me, I've been in an MBA program for the last 30 years.
I feel the same. Like being in financial journalism, it's like every day is a new day. Every day you get to learn so much. You get paid for it. You get to interact with the best minds in the business, and you get to grow your own money, right, from all the advice that you get. So that was my main objective with this show, The Money Mindset, because I know a lot of young people are struggling to do whether it is jobs, whether it is business, whether it is tough space that we are in, tough world to live in. Cost of living is so much. But my objective with this episode particularly is to drill down into the specifics. So if someone wants to build wealth for themselves through direct stock picking, how do they do it? What are the different ratios to look at? What are the different aspects to look at before investing in a company? And I know that you are very, very technical in your approach because during your time at DSP, I was also, I had invested in DSP mutual fund and great returns over the last 10-15 years. So let's start with the basics, right? I want to understand, when someone identifies a company, What are the different things to look at? First begin with the basics and then take it from there.
Sure, absolutely. So, by the way, it's very simple. It's not as technical as it's made out to be. Equity investing is actually the more simplest thing. The whole logic is, if you start off a business, let's say you have some capital and you want to start off a business. And let's say, for numbers sake, you have 10 crores. Now you have two choices with that 10 crores. Option one is you just go and buy a 10-year government bond, which is defined as a risk-free investing. So you can earn 6%. Today the 10-year is at 6%. So that's option one. Do nothing, just put your money into a 10-year GC. Option two is you say, listen, 6% is not good enough for me. Let me put my blood, sweat, tears into something, but to generate a higher return. Otherwise, why would you do it? So let's say you start off a business and you're generating 15% return. All businesses are created to generate a return on the capital that you invested. That's the fundamental logic of capitalism. It's the fundamental logic of why there's a stock market in the first place. So coming back to your business, so option one was 6%. Option two was you set up your business and now you're earning 15% on your capital. And just here's where the slight technical words, just to clarify. Capital, another word for capital that we use in capital market balance is it's also called net worth or equity. Right? And the returns, the profit that you generate on it, that when I say 15%, that's the return that you're making on the capital, the profit on the equity. So let's say you're generating 15%. Now, at some point, you decided to sell your business. How do we put a price on it? And let's say I'm a buyer of your business. Right? Now, if you had done option one, you've taken your 10 crores and you're getting 10 years at 6%. That's something I can do as well. There's no extra effort. I will pay you 10 crores to buy your 10 crore investment because there's no value add. It's just transferring the security to my name. Correct? But if you've done option 2, which is you put your 10 crores to work and you're generating 15%, generating 1.5 crores, you won't sell it to me at 10 crores. You charge me a premium to the 10 crores based on the extra value that you're generating between 15% and 6%, which is market rate of interest. So this 9% extra value that you're generating is what you want to convert into a premium to this 10 crores. That is called, in our words, a price to book ratio. So the 10 crores is your capital, or your book value, or your net worth, or your equity. And you get a multiple of your capital depending on the returns that you're generating on your capital. Okay, so just maybe I'll again just to make sure we've got on the same page. So in the second option, if you're generating 15%, you will charge me a premium to your creditors. The rule of thumb, by the way, for a 15% return on equity is that you can do a discounted cash flow and a complex thing, but the simple rule of thumb is you get 3 times your capital, which should be the value of your business. So if you put 10 crores in and you're generating 15% return on it, your business, I should be willing to buy it from you at about 30 crores would be a fair value, 3 times the 10 crores. That's called the price to book ratio.
So you want to give me an example on how price to book is calculated, how it works for, say, any popular stock?
Actually, instead of a popular stock, let me tell you for the index itself, for the markets, because these numbers are representative of the stock market, by the way. If you look at India over the last 45 years, let's say the Sensex return on equity, the median return on equity has been 15%. So the average businessman does an economics of generating 15% return on the capital invested. And the market over a long period of time, if you look at the average valuations, has been around 3.2 times price to earnings. So 15% return gets you roughly 3 times price to earnings. That's been the long-term trend. Now, the higher the return, the higher is the price to book that you command. So for instance, let's say, take the case of Nestle. Nestle is a consumer brand. it generates a very high return on equity, 90% plus, because there's no capital intensity. You put in the net worth, it's a brand, it generates high profits, dividend out most of it, so your net worth remains pretty much steady. The return on net worth is as high as 90%. And therefore Nestle trades at something like 60 to 70 times price to book, because the higher the return on equity, the higher the multiple of the value of that business in relation to the equity. It's a simple correlation. The more profits you generate on your capital, the more multiple times of your capital should be the worth of your asset. But there are periods where things can change. There is volatility in markets. So, if life was so simple, then why do we get markets up and down? Why do business prices? There's where you come to the fundamentals we as members of the firms. So the most important variable to understand is return on equity. That's very clear, because that determines the value of the business. Unfortunately, return on equity is not necessarily right? You will have some